I'm a nurse, and the hospital's darkest secret lies beneath the emergency basement. My name is Elena Vasquez, and I've been working at Mercy General Hospital in Boston for 8 years. What I discovered beneath the emergency basement should have stayed buried, but now that I know the truth, I can't stay silent anymore. It started when they assigned me to the night shift in the old wing. Mercy General was built in 1892, and while most of the hospital had been renovated, the East Wing retained its original architecture. The emergency basement was off-limits to everyone except maintenance, or so we were told. The elevator buttons only went down to B1, but I'd noticed the shaft continued deeper when the doors opened. The first sign something was wrong came during a particularly busy October night. We'd had 3 cardiac arrests, 2 trauma cases from a multi-car pileup, and the ER was overflowing. I was grabbing supplies from the basement storage when I heard it, a rhythmic pounding coming from below, from somewhere deeper than the basement should go. I mentioned it to Tom, the senior maintenance supervisor who'd worked there for 30 years. His face went pale, and he grabbed my arm hard enough to leave bruises. "You didn't hear nothing," he said. "And you sure as hell don't go looking for where it came from. Some things in this hospital are better left alone. But I've never been good at leaving things alone." The next night, I waited until my break and went back to the basement. The pounding had stopped, but I noticed something else. The floor in the far corner, near the old freight elevator, was warm. Not just slightly warm, but hot enough that I could feel it through my shoes. The freight elevator itself had been sealed with a metal plate welded over the buttons, but the welds were old, rusty. I started researching the hospital's history during my off hours. The Boston Public Library had archives going back to the hospital's founding. Most of it was standard stuff, medical breakthroughs, notable doctors, expansion projects. But there were gaps. The records from 1923 to 1925 were missing. The basement expansion project from 1931 was mentioned but never detailed. And there were 17 death certificates from 1932, all listing the cause of death as industrial accident, all on the same date. I found an old newspaper clipping from 1933. It mentioned a gas leak at Mercy General that forced an evacuation. But the article was strange. It mentioned that the leak originated from unauthorized excavations beneath the hospital. The hospital board had issued a statement that all excavations had been filled and sealed. But they weren't sealed. Not completely. 3 weeks into my investigation, I met Doris. She was 94 years old, a patient in the geriatric ward recovering from hip surgery. I was adjusting her fall when she grabbed my wrist. "You've been to the basement," she said. "I can smell it on you." I tried to pull away, but her grip was surprisingly strong. "My father worked here," she continued. "In 1932. He was one of the ones who found it. One of the ones they silenced." "Found what?" I asked. "The chamber. The thing that was already here when they dug the foundation. The thing they tried to study, then tried to destroy, then tried to contain." She looked around to make sure no one was listening, then pulled me closer. "They fed it at first. Thought they could control it, use it. The administrators, the chief of surgery, they believed it could revolutionize medicine. It could heal anything, cure any disease. But it was hungry. Always so hungry." "What did they feed it?" I whispered. She stared at me with clouded eyes. "What do you think, child? This is a hospital. There's never a shortage of supplies." I left her room feeling sick. That night, I couldn't concentrate on my rounds. Every death, every patient who didn't make it, I wondered. I wondered if their bodies really went to the morgue, or if they went somewhere else first. I had to know. I waited until the next new moon, when the hospital was darkest. I'd stolen a crowbar from maintenance and hidden it in my locker. At 3 a.m., I made my way to the basement. The freight elevator's welded plate had rusted through in one corner. It took me an hour, but I managed to pry it open enough to access the manual controls inside. The elevator still worked. It descended past B1, past what should have been the foundation. B2. B3. B4. The temperature rose with each level. By the time it stopped at B5, I was sweating through my scrubs. The doors opened onto a corridor that shouldn't exist. The walls were older than the hospital above, made of stone that looked ancient. The air smelled of copper and antiseptic and something else, something organic and wrong. Emergency lighting cast everything in a sick green glow, though I couldn't understand how there was still power down here. I followed the corridor, my footsteps echoing. It branched off into multiple passages, but I followed the main path, the one where the air was warmest. I passed rooms filled with old medical equipment, things that looked like they belonged in a museum of medical horrors. Restraint tables with too many straps. Surgical tools I couldn't identify. Jars filled with preserved things I didn't want to examine too closely. The corridor ended at a massive steel door. It was newer than the surrounding stone, probably installed in the 1930s based on the style. There was a viewing window at eye level, thick glass reinforced with wire mesh. I looked through and immediately wished I hadn't. The chamber beyond was vast, carved from solid rock. In the center was a pit, maybe 20 feet across, filled with a dark liquid that moved wrong. It didn't ripple like water. It pulsed like a living thing. And there were tubes, dozens of them, running from the ceiling down into the pit. Some were old, wrapped in decaying canvas. Others were modern, medical-grade plastic. I was about to run when I heard footsteps behind me. I turned to find Dr. Harrison, the chief administrator, standing in the corridor with 2 security guards. "I was hoping you wouldn't find this place," he said. "You're a good nurse, Elena. One of our best. It would be a shame to lose you." "What is that thing?" I demanded, trying to keep my voice steady. He sighed, looking suddenly very old. "It was here when they excavated the foundation. A natural phenomenon, they thought at first. A hot spring with unusual properties. They built the hospital here specifically to study it. The healing properties were remarkable. Wounds closed in hours. Diseases vanished. Terminal patients recovered completely. But there was a price," I said. "There's always a price. It needs biological material to function. At first, they used animals. Then medical waste. Then, he shrugged. The morgue is directly above us. A simple matter of installing some discreet plumbing. The families never know. Closed casket funerals are common enough. You're feeding dead bodies to that thing. Not just dead bodies. It needs variety. Blood from the blood bank that's about to expire. Surgical waste. Placentas from the maternity ward. Nothing that would be missed. And in exchange, we have the highest recovery rate of any hospital in the state. Our experimental treatments have a success rate that borders on miraculous. How many lives have been saved because of what we do down here?" "This is insane," I said. "This is. I don't even have words for what this is." "This is medicine," he replied. "This is the future. Do you know how many terminal patients we've saved? How many children who should have died are alive because of what that thing can produce?" He pulled out a vial from his pocket, filled with a clear liquid that seemed to glow faintly. "1 drop of this in an 4, and stage 4 cancer goes into remission. Heart disease reverses itself. Alzheimer's patients recover their memories. We've been refining the extraction process for 90 years. We're so close to being able to synthesize it, to understand how it works." "And what happens when it's not fed?" I asked. "What happens when you stop giving it what it wants?" His expression darkened. "We learned that lesson in 1932. It reaches out. The plumbing works both ways. It can take what it needs if we don't provide it. The 17 who died were the ones who tried to seal it away. It pulled them down through the pipes, one by one. After that, we learned to keep it satisfied." I backed toward the door, but the security guards blocked my path. "I won't be part of this," I said. "You already are," Dr. Harrison said. "Every patient you've saved, every treatment that worked when it shouldn't have, you've been using its gifts. The entire hospital runs on what we harvest from it. Our funding, our research grants, our reputation, it all comes from this. I'm going to expose this. People need to know." He shook his head sadly. "No, Elena. You're not. You see, the thing down there, it's particular about its food. It develops preferences. And lately, it's been rejecting what we've been giving it. We've had to get creative. I felt the guards grab my arms. I struggled, but they were too strong. You know what the hardest part is, Dr. Harrison continued as they dragged me toward the door. Explaining the disappearances. When patients die, there's paperwork, family notifications. But when staff vanish, we have to be creative. You've been under a lot of stress lately, Elena. Everyone knows that. You've been acting erratic, paranoid. Your supervisor has the documentation. When you don't show up for your shift tomorrow, people will assume you finally snapped, quit without notice.
No, he screamed. You can't do this.
We can, he said. We have. You're not the first curious nurse to find this place.
You won't be the last.
They opened the steel door. The smell that came out was overwhelming, rot and chemicals and something alive. I could see the liquid in the pit responding to my presence, rising up like it was eager. But then the lights went out.
Complete darkness.
I heard shouting, a scuffle. Someone's flashlight beam cut through the black, and I saw Tom, the maintenance supervisor, holding a gun. Run, girl, he shouted. Emergency exit, corridor B. Go. I ran. Behind me, I heard gunshots, screaming, and then a sound I'll never forget, like 1,000 mouths opening at once, wet and hungry. The emergency lighting flickered back on, and I found corridor B, a narrow passage that led to a ladder. I climbed 5 stories in the dark, my hands slipping on the rusty rungs, until I emerged through a hatch into the parking garage. I didn't stop running until I was miles away. I called the police from a payphone, babbling about murders and monsters under the hospital. They sent a unit to check it out. They found nothing. The basement was just a basement. The freight elevator was still welded shut. Dr. Harrison filed a report about my erratic behavior and unauthorized absence. Tom, the maintenance supervisor, had apparently retired suddenly, moved to Florida, no forwarding address. I tried going to the media, but without evidence, I was just another unstable healthcare worker burned out by the pandemic. My nursing license was suspended pending psychological evaluation. James left me. My apartment was broken into 3 times in a week, nothing stolen but the message clear. So I ran. I've been running for 2 months now, staying in cheap motels, paying cash, avoiding cameras. But I can't run forever, and I can't stay silent. People need to know what's under Mercy General. They need to know what's in their IVs, what's saving their lives, what it costs. I've sent copies of this to journalists, bloggers, anyone who might listen. I've hidden evidence in safe deposit boxes across 3 states. Maybe nothing will come of it. Maybe they'll find me before anyone believes me. But I had to try. If you're reading this, be careful. Check the mortality rates at your local hospital. Look for patterns. Watch for staff who disappear without explanation. And whatever you do, stay out of basements that are supposed to be sealed.
The thing under Mercy General is still Tiere.
It's still hungry. And it's still being fed. But here's what terrifies me most. In my research, I found similar patterns at hospitals in Chicago, Los Angeles, Houston, Philadelphia. Old hospitals, built on sites that were special for reasons no one talks about. High success rates. Innovative treatments. And basements that go deeper than they should. Mercy General isn't unique. It's part of a network. They're all connected, these hospitals with their miracle cures and dark secrets. They share research, techniques, and sometimes, when one of their things gets too hungry, they share other resources too. There's a whole economy of horror running beneath our healthcare system, and we're all complicit every time we celebrate a miraculous recovery. I don't sleep much anymore. When I do, I dream of that pit, that hungry darkness. I dream of all the people who've vanished into it over the decades. Sometimes I dream they're still alive down there, dissolved but conscious, part of the thing that produces those miracle cures. Sometimes I dream it's calling to me. And the worst part is, sometimes I want to answer. Because Dr. Harrison was right about one thing. I've seen what that substance can do. I've watched terminal patients walk out healthy. I've seen children who should have died grow up to have children of their own. How many lives is that worth? How many disappeared nurses and orderlies and janitors balance out against the thousands saved? I don't have an answer. I just know I couldn't be part of it anymore. My laptop battery is dying, and I need to move again. They're getting closer. I can feel it. Maybe it's paranoia, but every hospital I pass seems to watch me.
Hver ambulancieren sounds like it's calling my name.
If they catch me, I'll end up in that pit. Just another feeding for the thing that keeps Mercy General's mortality rates so impressively low. But at least I've told someone. At least the secret is out there now, even if no one believes it. Look for the patterns. Question the miracles. And remember, in medicine as in everything else, if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. The real question is, what are you willing to sacrifice for a miracle? And who gets to make that choice? I used to think hospitals were places of healing. Now I know better. They're feeding grounds. And we're all on the menu, one way or another.
Stay out of the basements.
Trust me on that.
Elena Vasquez, RN.
Former night nurse, Mercy General Hospital.
Still running.
P.S. If you're medical staff reading this, you might already know. You might be part of it. If so, I have just one question. How do you sleep at night? Or do you dream of the pit too? P.P.S. I've just realized something. The substance they extract, it changes people. Not obviously, not all at once. But every dose carries a trace of what that thing is. Every miracle cure spreads its influence a little further. We're not just feeding it. We're becoming it, one treatment at a time. Maybe that's the real plan. Maybe the feeding is just the beginning. I wish I'd never opened that door. But I did, and now you know too. What you do with that knowledge is up to you. Just remember, every choice has a price. And in places like Mercy General, someone always pays. The patterns are everywhere once you start looking. Hospitals with impossibly good statistics. Basements that are off limits. Staff who vanish without a trace. And always, that faint smell of copper and something organic in the air. They're spreading. Building new hospitals on old sites. Expanding their network. And we celebrate each new medical center, each breakthrough treatment, never asking what makes it all possible. I found a report from 1891, the year before Mercy General was built. The site was originally home to a sanitarium that burned down under mysterious circumstances. Before that, it was Native American land, considered cursed, avoided by all the local tribes. They knew something was there. Something that should have been left alone. But we don't leave things alone. We dig. We build. We discover. And sometimes, we feed what we find. I'm tired of running.
Tired of looking over my shoulder.
Tired of seeing that pit every time I close my eyes. Maybe it's time to stop running. Maybe it's time to go back and face what's down there. Or maybe that's just what it wants me to think. The thing about working night shift is you see things more clearly in the dark. You notice what others miss. You hear what others ignore. And sometimes, you find out why some doors should stay locked. I was a good nurse.
I saved lives.
I comforted the dying. I did my job with compassion and skill. But none of that matters now. Now I'm just another person who knows too much, running from shadows that might be real or might be in my head. The difference doesn't matter much anymore. Real or imagined, the danger is the same. Because whether they catch me or I lose my mind, I'll disappear just the same. But at least I've warned you. At least someone knows. Maybe that's enough. Maybe someone will dig deeper, find proof, expose the whole network. Or maybe they'll just dismiss me as another burned-out healthcare worker with a persecution complex. Either way, I've done what I could. The sun is rising now. Time to move again. Time to find another motel, another temporary sanctuary. But I know it's only temporary. They have resources I can't match, connections I can't break. All I have is the truth. And the truth is this. Something lives beneath Mercy General Hospital. Something that has been there longer than the building, longer than the city, maybe longer than human memory. We built our house of healing on top of it, and it has made us pay for that trespass ever since. We feed it our dead, and it gives us the power to save the living. Is that a fair trade? Is that good medicine? Is that something we should accept? I don't have the answers. I just have the nightmares. And now, so do you. Welcome to the night shift. Try not to go to the basement.